Good evening. It's time for our recap. We just finished week 3, and our focus this week was on nouns. Nouns are on chart E, and we talked about noun usages and also the noun attributes. And we spent quite a bit of time on these. Remember that nouns name things, and that can happen anywhere in a sentence. So depending on where the noun is located in the sentence, that will tell us its usage. And then all the nouns have 3 different attributes. They are either common or proper, singular or plural, and then concrete or abstract. Some nouns are also collective or compound. And so by going over nouns, we just remember, just like Adam did in the garden, he named the animals. Nouns simply name persons, places, things, activities, or ideas. We also this week started our ATS sheets. That's just short for analytical task sheets. And as we talked about in class, an analytical task sheet is just a series of steps that we go through to look at a sentence in detail. And so I wanted to remind you that you have a whole special section there in week 3 that tells you exactly how to go through those analytical tasks, and this will actually take you all the way through week 24. So you want to keep referring back to this, and most of us, I think, have these in page protectors and probably have put it at the beginning of our guide. So if you can't find it, check in another location because you probably put it there for easy reference. But this will go through all 6 tasks, what they're for, a little example of how to do them, but then it just dives very deeply and gives you all the details on the question confirmation, how to diagram different sentences. It gives an ATS sheet complete, like the Jesus wept that we did, and it shows you exactly how to go through each task for that. I really encourage you, as you're tailoring this for your student, those second and third year students, not to stop at task 3, even though it only says to do that this week, but they're perfectly capable of going on, especially with these more simple sentences with just 2 words, and they can really then nail down those analytical tasks and how they work, and it's much easier then to move on from there when we get into the more complicated sentences that have more words. And so if your student is ready, feel free to go beyond just tasks 1 through 3, and in fact, this would be a great time to introduce the quid et quo with just 2 words in a sentence. You can easily go through those. And I encouraged you maybe even to use the charts, use the noun chart and the verb chart for Jesus and then wept, and just go through what are those noun usages and attributes, and then the same with the verbs. As you go through there, if you have any questions, please let me know. But also don't forget that each week as you go through those analytical task sheets, you have word for word everything you need to say and all the answers for every sentence right here in your guide. So I want you, sorry, I'm having a hard time figuring out how the camera works here. So I want you to make sure that you know you have everything you need. Again, I only have what you have in the guide. So go through this, get this out, just work through it with your student. The more you do it, the easier it will become. Even the quid et quo answers are just right here. They're in kind of a wonky order, but as you work through it, you'll figure it out. If you're like me, my student was always much faster at giving me the answers than I was at checking them over here. But it's just a fun way to work together and to have that discussion, because remember, those analytical task sheets are really for discussion. As a reminder, you want to read that Getting Dialectic section and then check the at-home section. That will tell you exactly what to do. We did change. This is really the only change we make throughout the year. But today we just focused on nouns instead of nouns and pronouns. Next week we will focus on pronouns and interjections. We made that change so we can give that focus to nouns this week and then pronouns next week. In math, we went ahead and introduced National Number Knockout. We just very slowly worked through some patterns of numbers that you can use. This is a great game to play at home. Again, remember, we're working on being able to use our math facts quickly, to come up with the answers quickly, to work through as many facts as we can in a more fun way. And National Number Knockout is a great way to do that. You don't have to focus on speed at first. At first, you can just focus on how the numbers work together. We want to develop number sense in our students so they become familiar with working with numbers and manipulating them, adding them together, subtracting them, multiplying, dividing. And once they become comfortable with that rhythm and pattern, then we can work on speed. So You decide where you want to work on that with your student, how exactly you want to work through that. Finally, in IEW, we did move on to a new unit today, Unit 3, which is retelling narrative stories. And we talked again, if you've been in class before, we went ahead and looked at our story sequence model. And we talked about the foundation of a story is the setting and the characters. And then there's the problem and the conflict, the climax, and then the resolution. And what we're doing with the story sequence model is we're using those elements of stories and we're actually putting them into a 3-paragraph paper. We're using an outline, and now we're giving each paragraph a purpose. So the first paragraph is the characters and the setting. The second paragraph, the conflict or the problem. And then the third paragraph is the climax or the resolution. This page in your SRP, page 21, is an excellent way to go back over what we talked about in class with a lot of questions. Remember, we talked about with this particular unit, it's different because we're putting information into our brain by reading or listening to the story, and we get that information out of our brain by asking questions. And parents, we drive those questions at first. Eventually, after modeling them over and over, our students hopefully will begin to ask themselves those questions and can work on that outline on their own. Remember, the steps would be that you will read the story, and then you will ask the questions and make your keyword outline. The same rules apply to your keyword outline. This time you're just answering questions about those specific elements of the story in each paragraph. After you have made your keyword outline, you want to go ahead and do the brainstorming. What are those LY words that might work well? What about vocabulary words? Who, which clause? An optional dress or decoration to use would be the alliteration, and we did not talk about that in class, but remember that is when you have 3 or more words that actually have the same beginning sound. Tongue twisters do this. Sally sold the seashells by the seashore. That would be an example of alliteration. Sorry, I'm trying to find the right page here in our IEW book. I modeled for you in class lesson 5. We read the story of Beowulf, and then we did a quick outline. There are, of course, brainstorming pages where you can practice your dress-ups, and then also add vocabulary words and practice those. Okay, so again, you're going to read, outline, do the brainstorming pages. Then you're going to test your outline, verbally retell that story, trying to incorporate as many of those brainstorming ideas as you came up with. You're going to look at your checklist and make sure that you know what's expected of you as a student and as a parent as you write the paper. Then you write the rough draft. You edit. Parents, you can work together with your student to edit. You can edit, hand it back to them. This is up to you. I think it's a great place to, again, have that dialectic discussion. Go ahead and edit it with them. Does this need a comma here? Why did you put a comma here? Is this a complete thought? Let's look at our 5 parts of a sentence. Just asking those questions. Why did you put an exclamation point here? Not that that means it's wrong, but you're just asking the questions even when they do something right. So they're explaining to you their thought process. It's a way to have great conversation. After the editing, then you want to do the final draft. Hopefully your student is enjoying being able to share their paper with other students in class. We're going to go ahead and use the same teams we divided up in today through the end of this first 6 weeks. And then in our next 6 weeks, we'll switch it up and use some different teams. I really appreciate any feedback you have regarding class. I recognize as the afternoon drags on, it seems like around 2 o'clock, maybe 2:15, 2:30, it gets really long and really tiring. We've been in school all day, and so I appreciate you staying with us. Your students are so attentive. They're participating very well, and I appreciate all of you so much. I enjoy our Essentials class, and I want to be of any help to you that I can. It's my joy to encourage and equip you. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I hope that you have a great week, and I will see you next Tuesday.